Private Tyler showed up to the unit as a brand new soldier. He had no rank on his shoulders. He wasn't really sure about how to do his job, but he wanted to do a good job. And so one day we found ourselves out in the field. In the military is when you go on training exercises. And so we're sitting there, and it's a nice, calm morning, and I'm watching the radios. The only problem with that is that I'm a second lieutenant, and it was Private Tyler's job to watch the radios. And he said, "Sir, I can't do it. Will you do that for me?" I said, "Of course." And so I sat there on these radios, and we were just talking, and I was learning about him and where he was from and just getting information because he was so new to the unit. All of a sudden, the radios came on. We had 4 radios in our vehicle, and all 4 of them demanded my attention, so I paid attention to the radios. And I began to talk to this person who needed this thing, and I talked to this other person who was in another place, and they needed that thing. And then we had a little computer before computers were big like they are now, and I was working away on that. And then I would grab this microphone, this radio, and I would talk to this person, and I did that for about 5 to 10 minutes, non-stop. And then silence. And Private Tyler looked at me, and he said, "Wow, how did you do that?" And I said, "I just did it. I didn't think about it. Somebody needed me on this radio, and I responded. And someone needed me on that radio, and I responded. And somebody needed me to do something with the computer, and I responded." And Private Tyler said, "Sir, can we change seats?" And we switched seats. And Private Tyler never gave me that seat again. As a leader, you need to ask this question: who needs to see your competence so that they can grow in their abilities? As a leader, you must be competent. But Private Tyler isn't the only person that I've had the opportunity to work with. And years later, I was a captain in the United States Army, and I was working in this place, and it was called European School 2. And what we did in that school is we taught 2 languages, Russian and Persian Farsi. And it was, I don't know how many students we had, but we had a small problem. If you walked through our building, you would think it was a high school, not a school where military service members were. And what do I mean by that? Coats over here, trash over there. It didn't look organized. It didn't look like we had discipline. And so I began daily walking through the buildings. I would walk at night after everyone left, or I would walk early in the morning before anyone got there. And every time I found deficiencies, I would write them down, and I would go to my NCOIC, and I would say, "Hey, let's go for a walk." And we did this often. And after a while, days turned into weeks. Slowly but surely, the trash was less. The jackets were put in the right place. Slowly but surely. And one day I walked in and I said, "Sergeant so-and-so, let's go for a walk." And we walked every inch of that building. I said, "You see that? You see that? Do you see that?" And when we got back to his office, I said, "I know that I was frustrating you. I know that you got tired of me coming." One time I found a bunch of trash and I put it in his office, in his seat. It wasn't wet trash. I put it in his office, in his seat. So when he walked in, he knew that I needed to see him. So he came down to my office. So it was some time, but eventually he saw that everything that I was pushing him to, I said, what do you think of our building? He said, it looks great. I said, now, as long as we keep this standard as the standard, we never have to worry if a special visitor is coming. Our building already looks good. We never have to be that unit that has to stay late. We got to get everything cleaned up. Why? Oh, we're going to have special visitors. European School 2, we started on time and we finished on time because we were smart enough to be consistent. It takes consistency. When you set a standard high, you cannot lower that standard simply because people think it's too difficult. No. The standard is the standard. If you want to be a leader that people are going to follow, you must set high standards and then tell them, you come up to where this standard is. Be consistent. I had a major in my unit years later, and he made a mistake, and it was a big one. It was the type of mistake that he should have been fired for. I won't go into what it was, but understand he was the recipient of someone else's bigger mistake that happened at the exact same time. So he was saved, but he still had a problem. I didn't trust him. And so he came to work, and I could look at him and tell that he wanted to earn trust back. What he had done was very bad. And I just sat back and I allowed him room to begin to make amends, to begin to show I am not that officer. And time went by, and one day I was sitting at my desk and it hit me. This major was the best person we had in our unit. And so I typed out an email to my boss. And I said, sir, I know that I told you that this guy made this mistake, and we dealt with it. I said, but I need you to know he is the best soldier we have in this unit right now. And then I thought, I need to go one step further. I called him into my office. And I said, I want you to read something. And I showed him the email that I sent. And I said, if I'm going to tell my boss what a mess up you are, then I must tell my boss what a great job you did. And he looked at me and he said, thank you, sir. And his eyes almost welled up like a Keith Williams speech. But he was able to hold them back. If you want to be a leader that people want to follow, you must be compassionate. People are going to make mistakes. That is not up for discussion. You're going to make a mistake. They're going to make a mistake. Will you as a leader have the compassion so that they can go be great like this soldier did? So as we get ready to close, I wrote a 10-page speech for the closing. Remember this, as a leader, it's not about you growing to be the best leader you can be. It is about you putting your people in place to be the best they can be. And by default, you will grow as a leader. Always remember to be competent, to be consistent, and when everything else lets you down, be compassionate. Now I have a gift for you guys. I wrote a book. If I'd have known you could get an ovation, I would have wrote more books. For every title holder in the room, I want you. I don't know what comedians you hang around, Riley, but that wouldn't be funny. I want every one of you to get whatever you can out of this book. Understand that you don't have to read this book, chapter 1 to chapter 17. You can read it in any order that you want, because each chapter is its own story. You may even hear some of the stories that we said here today. So with that, you got my shameless plug up there? Just hit the space bar, bro. Yeah. Calling your people. I had a buddy of mine, he is the head coach of Arkansas State University, and he said, when the time to prepare arrives, when the time to perform arises, the time to prepare has passed. Ladies, you have about 3 or 4 weeks to prepare. And when you show up on June the 20th, whatever, be prepared to perform. Thank you for your time. Thank you.